Jonathan Hom, and today I'm going to talk to you about a public historical event site in Boston, Massachusetts called the Boston Freedom Trail. The Boston Freedom Trail covers 2.5 miles and gives you a chance to see 16 different sites as it associates to the American Revolution. If you go to freedomtrail.org, you'll find out that this trail is going to give you a chance to discover the rich history of the American Revolution. You're going to get a chance to see churches. You're going to get a chance to see burial sites. You're going to get a chance to see a house. You're also going to get a chance to see some monuments. You're also going to see some sites where some specific history happened. One of those sites is the site of the Boston Massacre. In 1768, according to Dr. John Busher at teachinghistory.org, he said that the British troops were brought into Boston to enforce the Townshend Act. The Townshend Act was fairly unpopular, and it created a lot of protests. This protest leads to pushing and shoving. And even though that the soldiers were under orders not to use their firearms, they did, as we know, because in 5 March 1770, 5 people were killed at the Boston Massacre. This is Paul Revere's engraving. It was taken from the Gilder Lehrman Institute of American History at gilderlehrman.org, where you can see the American colonists being gunned down by the English redcoats or the British troops. Some will say that this is not accurate, but I don't think Paul Revere was trying to make an accurate depiction of the massacre, because later on the Gilder Lehrman website, it said that it was the most effective war propaganda for the American Revolution. I think that was probably one of Paul Revere's goals. You get a chance to be in that site, and if you go on the anniversary, you can actually see a rendition of it. Another site you're going to get a chance to go and visit is the Old North Church, or the Christ Church. First, if you don't know about the Old Church, it might just not sound like it's that exciting. So we kind of look at a poem called The Midnight Run of Paul Revere by Longfellow, where he said, "One if by land, two if by sea." Right there we know that we're talking about the lanterns. Robert Newman and John Pulling climbed this 191-foot steeple at the old church and held up those 2 lanterns, effectively warning the colonists that the British were coming by sea. On this Freedom Trail, you'll get a chance to stand and see that steeple, to look at that 191-foot steeple and see how far someone could be to actually be able to see those lights. And the sites are great, and that's just 2 of the 16 sites. But there's more to the Boston Freedom Trail than just those sites. The actors are dressed in authentic 18th century clothing, and they're the ones that are telling the history. That's great if you're taking a bunch of 5th graders onto a field trip, because they not only get to hear and see it, they get to almost be moved inside of it, like they're being told a story by the people that made that history. Kindergartners are being able to interact with them and effectively enhancing the learning experience for any field trip that you take. The older kids, it's extremely interesting, because no matter what you're interested in, there's something at this Boston Trail that you can see. If you're into the historical monuments or the war monuments, like I said, you can see Bunker Hill. If you're into the religious aspect, there's a bunch of churches. You can find out who's buried underneath the old church and why that's Old North Church and why that's a significant interest. You get a chance to hear about the figures of the American Revolution, like Ben Franklin and Paul Revere, as they tell those stories. So there's something for everybody at the Boston Freedom Trail. I, for one, am extremely excited at some point in my life to head over to Boston so I can get a chance to go on this 2.5 mile journey throughout the American history. Thank you for your time.